Okay, so today, this is Dean Blamas. I have another video shoot today with the Shore Group. They never confirmed, but I just thought we're up in Highland Park. I just thought I would, oh, they're in there. There they are.
We gonna
Wait,
oh my God, you guys.
didn't we cancel?
Door's locked. I'm pretty sure they can see me. Okay, I'm pretty sure, well, I know they didn't confirm the scheduling, but goodness.
Why is he
Are
here?
you okay?
I don't know.
I don't know. He
I
just
so-
won't go
I don't
away.
wanna-
Oh man.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Dean Blamas. We are in Chicago's North Shore here in Highland Park at Compass Real Estate with the Shore Group. So I'm going to go around and let each one introduce themselves. First, Beth Albert's the team leader. Just do a brief introduction if you can.
I'm Beth Alberts. I've been in the business since 2010. We formed the Shore Group last September. The four of us have all worked together for over 10 years. And we're the best of friends, and we have a great team, great time.
You worked together before you officially joined the
We did. We all worked
Okay.
as individual agents in the same office.
Okay, so it just made sense.
It just made sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ellen Truckerman. I've been in the business 22 years now, and I call the three of my teammates real pals. Rebecca and Beth, I worked with prior for many, many years. Mata was a great, great addition.
And speaking of Mata,
Speaking of Mata, I'm Mata Hitchmo, and I've been in the business for 12 years, almost 12 years. And yeah, it's a real honor to be part of the Shore Group. Just a lot of great energy, and it's a great experience for all of us, I think. You know.
And finally, just kidding. I'm Rebecca Gilberg. I've been in the business since 2010 as well. And like mentioned before, we've all worked together for quite a while, but it just made sense to form this group. And I think we are all benefiting and can add so much more together than individually.
Mm-hmm.
and the North Shore is your area, right? That's
We do. We cover the whole North Shore, and we have
then
a great
some-
referral base
Right.
for outside of the North Shore as well.
Correct.
Tell me a little about the North Shore market. Yeah, I think it's really important, being in the mortgage business, that you get represented. Mortgages you can do, they're the same no matter where you go across the country. But it really matters who you work with in real estate. If someone's saying, I need an agent from the North Shore, I have someone from the South Side, I kind of cringe, thinking you might want representation in that area if you can speak to that a level. So.
Well, we've actually seen recently a lot of city agents trying to come up to the shore.
Is that because things have slowed down?
I
or-
think because things have slowed
Right.
in the city, and this has happened before, they think, oh, it's still just showing a house, buying a house. But what we found is they just don't know the nuances of our market. And we have so many homes that sell up here without even being listed. And so there's properties that people in the city aren't hearing about because they don't work with a local agent. We're also going into and out of homes every single day, and we know the backstories about them, if they've had water in the basement, if they had a deal fall apart before, and possibly why. So I just think working with the local agent is really important these days.
Well, it's your home. You know
Yeah.
everything.
We know the schools. We know where to get your hair cut. I mean, we become a resource for people long after their
Right.
transaction.
Purchasing the home is just one piece of it. So it's knowing the ins and outs of the neighborhood and the schools. Our boundaries are constantly changing. There's just so much up-to-date information that no one can possibly know if they're not living in this area.
One of the things you said is, when that there was an issue with the property, it's been on off the market. Someone from, I will just say outside this area would never know that. That's just from being here, I think. And that's an important thing.
They'll know what's in the public record and they'll know what's in the listing history, but they may not know
The whys.
behind it.
There's a lot of
Exactly.
networking that goes on here.
That's what I was looking for. It's the
We're-
networking.
the
Yeah.
networking is incredible. Not to mention there's four of us that touch on different price points, different types of clients, which in turn you know about a property.
Right.
And that's what I was to speak to that. It's that's the other thing in terms of networking. A lot of times, we have these pocket listings, for example, where we'll be privy to what's going to be coming on just by speaking with each other and other people in our offices and whatnot. That might not be apparent to city agents.
Just like I mean, you all work at the same company here, but you know all the other agents.
Yeah,
Right,
I was just going to
exactly.
say an
That's the thing,
example
right.
is even we have a strong network outside of
Correct,
Compass.
yeah.
We work with a lot of the other brokerages, and I just had an experience where my client was like, I would like to sell my house quietly. I know there's a shortage of inventory, and they didn't want it listed anywhere, not as a private network, not on the MLS, just word of mouth. So it was up to me to generate some showings of just, kind of high producing agents in the area. And if you weren't, you didn't even know about it. And, it went under contract within several days, and only, a
Because of that
handful
network,
of
you
people
right.
got to
So
come through.
You would know who to reach out to. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of, as we're discussing, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, it seems so common.
The players.
The players. You
I
know who
got
to
a
reach
call
out to.
just yesterday. We're not listing a house, but I'm going to be getting a high-end ranch. I heard you're in the market for one. So it just,
Right.
it happens.
And the
Yes.
reason she got that call is because I was out at dinner and saw the agent who asked me, hey, do you know anybody? And I could immediately say, I have someone on my team who's working with somebody that would fit that perfectly.
Right.
And that's one of the advantages
So it's part
of the
of the community,
team.
part of the
We're
community.
doing 4 times as many showings. We're meeting with 4 times as many agents, and we just have that much more knowledge about what's happening in our local market.
Hyper local.
And I would imagine, so if you're doing your homework is what's going on in my market. So
Yes.
you know, whereas an agent from outside wants to represent a buyer or what have you, it's just not they're not doing that work because you're.
But we wouldn't do it either. Like, I mean, at least I feel all of us want to do what we're best at, that if we had an opportunity for a city, most of us would refer who we think's
Yes.
best in the city.
Right.
We're not looking to, impose on their business either. I think that, you can't be the best at everything.
You're doing someone a disservice if you don't know. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable selling in the city because I don't know a lot about the schools or, about the
things we talk
neighborhoods.
about now,
Right,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, if I want to do right by my client who, let's say, wants to move to the city, and even if I'm listing their house, I would certainly, refer them out to someone who really knows the area.
And with the agents I work with in the city, they'll often ask me if they have clients going to the suburbs. The better ones will refer that out.
And that's why it's important for us too to socialize and to become familiar with other agents at Compass, and we participate in company-wide events so that we can get to know these people, so we're comfortable with their work style and their work ethic,
And
and we have
matching the right
and matching the right
personalities.
person.
I mean, and that extends out of state. I mean, I purchased something in Nashville where my son lives, and I connected with a Compass agent there, and she was like, if I have referrals coming towards you, we can do that too, which is great. I mean, there's a huge network of Compass agents.
So that's a big plus too, all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
All the
not
top
a one-stop
markets.
shop. So let's talk about the importance of buyer. We're talking about working where as experts in the North Shore, buyer agency, buyer representation. From the mortgage side, I stress I'm going to do this myself to save money. I can't stress how important it is to work with an agent that matters and knows what they're doing. Can we speak to a little bit the challenge you face when you have something like that, or how important that is? We talked about the value you bring to it, and maybe we can expound on that a bit.
Yeah, buyer agency has been a real hot topic, and it's very important that buyers be represented. Information is so readily available these days. Everybody can go online, you can go on Zillow, you can go on Redfin, you can get estimated values. But to me, I think what agents really bring that these sites can't is the human element of it. And we open the doors, we go in these houses, we see with our own eyes what those pictures aren't showing. And pictures are meant to show the pretty parts. They're not meant to show the scary basement. And so we go in and out of houses all day, every day. And when a buyer is represented, they get the benefit of all that cumulative knowledge. And when we go to negotiate a price, we actually can sit down and say, I've been in this house, I've been in this house, I've been in this house, and use that information to guide them to a realistic range.
Right.
And I think finding a house is just one piece of a really big puzzle.
Yes.
I think that looking at pretty pictures online is the fun part, but there's so many steps to the process. And once you identify in the home, like Beth was alluding to, it's finding the right price. And that's why you need our area of expertise to help to get to that price point. But also that just starts the inspection phase, and you really need someone who knows what they're doing to be in your corner to navigate through that process, because you get an 80-page report sometimes, and they don't even know what they're looking at. It can be very alarming, and we can really guide them through and provide resources to help alleviate some of the issues that we might, come across.
One of the things you mentioned is, I've been doing this over 20 years, and before people trusted us, with the advent of the internet, everyone's an expert, like you mentioned. They can go online, so that's something you have to work against too. I know in the mortgage industry, rates are this, and this because I saw it online, and this is all you should be paid. So it's a constant, like, there's value, and I tell people it matters who you work with, regardless of the human touch that you mentioned. I did a video once on the human touch, but speak on that when you have to overcome, well, I saw this online, and Zillow says this. That must be an issue sometimes too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a funny thing. I always think about it this way. I mean, if you have symptoms and you're not feeling well and you like Google those symptoms, you're going to come up with a whole array of stuff, and you've all of a sudden self-diagnosed yourself. I know it's not quite as intense there, but you go see a specialist, you ask them questions. They can dig deep and figure everything out. It's like the same thing we offer. It's a very emotional process for people, and you do need like someone sometimes to handhold a little bit and guide you through all of this stuff. It's not just like clicking through photos and whatnot.
You can get really excited looking at photos, but you have to imagine the reality of living in a place like that too. So
you have to manage clients' expectations, what to expect, especially after an inspection. Things come up, and what is really the important issues versus what is typically, a mundane inspection that we have seen with our experience. I've seen it all.
You have to walk them off the cliff sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to make them pay for this.
Psychology 101.
It's
and
not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you need.
Yes.
And everyone knows there's a general inspection, but there's a lot of other things that we recommend our clients do for further due diligence that they probably wouldn't know about. That we want to make sure that when you're buying a house that you need to uncover. So I think that whether it's a sewer inspection or a chimney inspection or radon or anything else, like the average buyer may not know about this and what companies to use.
I can't imagine doing that on your own, actually. So.
Not only that, the agents that work locally here, and we are very well versed with ravine properties.
That's
with
another good point.
With bluff properties, there are expenses
that
go into that with maintaining that property over the life of the home. And there's agents out there that don't even know what a ravine is. Or
I mean, in the case of lakefront property here on the North Shore, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you're working with somebody who doesn't know this area, you could fail to do an inspection up front and have erosion problems a few years down the line.
I'm sure you get a lot of transfers coming in because it's a high North Shore, right? So
We
they
do.
need to know, I want to live on the lake or by the lake. But here's what comes with it.
And here's what comes with it.
And we
There's
have tons of
maintenance
ravine
and
property.
expenses and
So as I mentioned, like in the mortgage business, everything's going to be done online, and we get calls, what's your rate and how much are you working? So the internet has kind of made it a challenge for us to overcome. I remember, was it $1 Million Listing, all these reality shows. I mean, how do you overcome that? Because I would imagine they probably think, you guys just live a soap opera life, fight with each other and try to make as much money as possible. So
we never fight.
Well, I mean, buyers and listers, so you have to overcome that, I would imagine.
Or they think they can redo their kitchen for $15,000.
Yeah.
in 15 days.
Yes.
No, that's a
So
real
do you have
problem
to
that we
overcome
have.
that? Okay,
Sure,
you have to
when we're
overcome-
out showing houses and people find a house and the space is great, but the finishes aren't quite right, and they say, oh yeah, we could probably fix this for about 20 grand.
Yeah.
Because they just watched an episode of House Hunters or whatever.
Yeah.
No, we have to be that voice of reason. And then
Reality versus
Reality TV is entertaining, but
Yeah.
and the reason I bought a house 2 years ago. I finally moved for a long time, and I saw all the work they do, but I want my life to be easier. So when people question what you do or how hard you work, if it was a smooth process, that means you did your job. That means they did their job. So I think that goes overlooked sometimes. So
That's a great point, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to make the process seamless and to make it seem like it's not a big deal, because it really is a lot of work.
it's a lot of stress.
to get to that point,
And I think people who think they're, doing it, by owner without representation, they don't realize all the nuances you uncover. But back to the reality TV part it really glamorizes what goes on. Our job, unfortunately, is not that glamorous.
No,
a lot of
vacuuming
times
people's homes.
we're cleaning people's homes
Yes.
and doing really undesirable tasks.
Shoveling a walkway.
I've had to paint the back wall of one of my clients' houses because, it was a FHA loan and
that's right,
we
yeah,
can't
you-
have chipping paint and whatever. And they
Right.
were already gone in Michigan. So
Yeah.
it's like
I folded piles of laundry, picked up dog poop.
And that's not making it on the cutting floor on reality TV.
No, right.
No
Exactly.
one wants to
How
see
about we
that
set you
part.
up meeting with the listing agent, it's a fight in the street or something, or
Yeah.
that's what they want.
And not
Yeah.
every house we have to sell is so beautiful.
Right.
So, on TV you see these gorgeous like mansions, and sometimes we have to really sell a home that's not that wonderful.
We have to be
And-
marketing experts. We have to be design experts. We have
Therapists.
Yeah.
Let's
therapists,
not
right.
forget this is the Midwest. This isn't LA. They're walking around in high heels in dry land, and we're traipsing through mud
Snow.
and snow in people's backyards. We're not wearing high heels.
No high heels in
No.
this group.
Not at all.
But that's one of the things that makes our group special too, is we are all full-time agents. There is no part-time in real estate and with the ability to do it well.
Right.
You have to be fully committed and all in, because we take calls from 7 o'clock in the morning until sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Our weekends aren't
Our
off,
weekends
obviously.
aren't ours. Vacations get interrupted.
That's when we get the busiest, is when we go on
Yeah.
vacation.
Every
Yeah.
time I leave town, I sell a house.
Exactly.
But I have to tell when I tell a client, I go, you can call me in the evening, call me in the weekend, because that's when you're house shopping a lot. So
Right.
Correct.
it has
Yeah,
to be
right.
correct.
Because everyone has their full-time jobs
Full-time
during the
jobs,
more
so you're-
standard
those are your
hours.
weekends,
Right.
So-
And also, I mean, to point, it's like during the process when you're like trying to purchase something and there's multiple offers or whatever. I don't care if I'm at dinner Saturday night. If that client's calling me, I'm like, they're so stressed out right now. There's so much going on. There are multiple offers. They're probably asking what's happening. You take the call. We're here for them. It's
Okay, so when it comes to a situation like that, I've known that, from our end, when their listing agent will call me to make sure they're pre-approved, and I have to say, yes, I've done everything that matters. How does that work, like with a buyer who's not represented versus someone who is represented on one of your listings? Is there a preference you have only because maybe they've done the work, or how does that work? Is that a benefit to have a buyer's agent in that aspect?
I mean, we will work with people, obviously, who want to represent themselves.
Right.
But in this market right now, when everything seems to be selling in multiple offers, sometimes we get to make a choice, or our sellers get to make a choice on who they want to work with. And most sellers would prefer to work with someone who has representation.
Is that because they know it doesn't stop once you're under contract? There's still
Right.
that
It's
process
because
as
the
well.
process from contract to close is so long and there's so many steps. And buyers really need somebody to make sure they're hitting those milestones, doing things in the correct order and the correct time, have their financing in place.
I mean, they have when you're hiring an agent, you have a mentor in place who's helping you get through the process where, you might be great at what you do, but you don't sell real estate day in and day out. So I think that we know that they're hopefully getting the proper guidance to, and everyone behaves differently. And sometimes you
walk
have to
off the
talk.
ledge. You
I
mentioned
was
walking
just
off the
going to
ledge,
say,
right?
you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to talk your client off the ledge and be like, I understand this sounds upsetting.
Right.
However, 1 out of 4 attics you find mold in, like
Correct.
where someone might be like, oh my God, there's mold, I'm walking away.
Because sometimes you get, when you're negotiating, sometimes it's that human nature. It's me versus them. They're not going to come down,
Right.
but you have to. This is their perspective. This is, I've been through this where they've represented themselves. I'm walking. They won't budge. They think I'm going to do. And I'm just cringing. I'm thinking, it's their perspective is different.
Right.
to you.
And
So
it's
that's-
not about winning. It's
not
really
about
about
winning. Correct,
partnering
right.
together
Right.
to reach the best solution. And I think when you're on your own, there's a competitive spirit that shouldn't really
Yeah, no,
be
I
there.
agree.
Well, it goes
You
back
want
to
you want
people who
both-
think they know everything.
well,
And
because they watch
don't need
HGTV.
they don't need representation. They know how to do our job better. They have more information at their fingertips, which isn't necessarily correct information or accurate to today's market.
And I think people are much happier, like with both sell side and buy side, when they're both represented.
Their
I mean, it's just
largest, usually
seamless.
their largest purchase.
Yes.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah.
so many times you hear someone say, well, I saw the valuation of my home online and it's
Yeah.
worth X. But you know what? They haven't been in your home. So those valuations are just very generic. And I think that people sometimes have a false sense of what's
big deal.
real. And they do need a professional to assist them and you're better off in the long run. I think you end up making more money because your list price is set where it's supposed to be
Right.
versus someone thinking you're not a real seller by, way over market.
100%. You need to do an actual market analysis and not look at like an estimate online, because I've had people come into my open house and say, well, it says it's worth this. And I'm like, okay, look on that site, look up your house. And they're like, my house is worth way more than that. I'm like, bingo, so it's really important to have someone being able to do these market analyses for you and really look at the comps.
But know the area too, though. That's
Right.
a big deal. No,
Right.
it's not just the online type of comps. I mean, you do the market analysis, but you have that input from being local too, which
Right.
matters. So we're in a situation now, if you've mentioned multiple offers, there's still low inventory, so people in the market property seems to be flying off the shelf when they can get it. Let's talk about that inventory issue and how you deal with it, or what's good.
Well, the inventory is very low right now. How we're dealing with it is through networking.
Right.
We're leveraging those relationships that we've made over the years to try to get ahead of it. And we're reaching out to people and trying to find out who's got what coming and who can we match it with.
We have some great tools too on our ready to sell, on our
We do. Our
Compass
Compass
technology.
platform.
template, yeah.
Yeah, we use AI, and we get a list every day of people who are in our database for, whatever reason.
Likely to sell.
Might be likely to sell, and that gives us a reason to reach out to people and maybe kind of plant the seed. As we work with more and more buyers, we reach out to clients. Hey, ever think about, selling?
Right.
You did reach out.
Oh,
to
we
Absolutely.
reach out all
Okay.
the
I
time.
mean, this is why
Yes.
buyer representation's important now more than ever, because it's really cutthroat,
Yeah.
and we are constantly looking through our database as well as all the brokers in the area.
And when you have buyers worried about, we're in a higher interest rate environment, do you have that challenge sometimes? I'm going to wait. Is that something?
Well,
you've
it's
seen?
more for me, it's more I have sellers that are wanting to maybe downsize a bit,
Right.
but they don't want to trade their 3% mortgage for,
It's not
8%
downsizing
right now.
anymore, right? That's not
Exactly.
downsizing.
So they're kind of sitting
Huge
on that.
problem.
Meanwhile, I have people that would probably want to buy their house, and it becomes this challenging. So yeah, the interest rates definitely are affecting it in that way. But I also have, pockets of people that are like, well, we'll refinance in
That's
a
the
year
smart
or
way to
so.
do it, right,
And,
yeah.
we could throw our money away on rent for the next year, but we really like this house, so we'll.
That's important when people ask me that. If they're asking me, potential client asking me, is now a right time to buy? I go, if you're this far in the process, you're asking me, my answer is going to be yes. But I'm not telling you I need you to buy and I want you to get that deal, or I want to get that deal. It's what you said. You're buying now, let's say the rate's 8%, but they're lower now, but you're going to, your property's going to appreciate. You're going to
Yeah.
be paying down a mortgage, and you can refinance
Right.
in the future. So it's
But
the
if
best of everything.
you're buying now, you have to know how to win.
Right,
And that is a huge thing that we have become experts at, is knowing how to win. And we have, I'd say, probably a dozen really reliable strategies for when we're up against
Right.
other people in multiple offers. It's not just price, it's timing, it's flexibility, it's relationships.
The terms too, of the contract.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen on mine when I've had those clients and their stuff didn't work. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it shows it with representation they have. And so I know the type I work with, if they're going they're under contract and they're securing it sooner than the ones who are having that challenge with the proper representation.
Yeah.
So that
And it's very-
speaks to everything we spoke. We were
Very
talking
possible they're working with an out-of-the-area agent
right.
who we have no experience with. We're not sure
was
they're
gonna say-
putting their best foot forward, how they deal. But going back to lack of inventory, quite honestly, I always go back to the want. I want to buy, I want to move, I want to sell, versus I have to. We need to get little Charlie into kindergarten. We don't want to go through private schools in the city. I can't do stairs anymore. I deal with a lot of people up in their upper years that really need one.
Times of the essence.
Yeah. So the want and the haves are two different, I have to move versus I'd like to move.
Yeah.
And the interest rates really don't matter as much.
The timing matters. Like I would imagine the summer, like you mentioned, school versus now where it's not as urgent, I would imagine, right?
Unless something pops up that they can't.
The real buyers are still buying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And they're still out there.
Yeah. And how long have you been at Compass together?
So we've been at Compass together, it'll be 3 years in the spring.
Okay. So you've known each other much longer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
all
Same.
at
We were at a
different-
former brokerage
That's
together.
That's what I was
for
trying to get.
like about 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
so it just kind of made sense. It was the
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
we-
and that's one of the unique things about our team is that we all have a lot of experience.
Why the Shore Group? Why would someone want to work with you up here?
In my case, I feel that I add to the team. I have a high-end clientele, great experience with high net worth. I was a former banker and a wealth advisor, so I feel that that's really the value I add to our team.
All right, so why the Shore Group here?
I feel the Shore Group brings so much to the table. All of us have so much individual gifts, so to speak. And, I work a lot with people selling multifamily homes. I have a lot of, I work in the community a lot. I'm part of Celebrate Highwood. I don't know if anyone knows Highwood. It's a really cool area. And so I do a lot of work there.
So why the Shore Group up here?
I think what makes us an amazing team is that we all live and work here. We live where we work. We love our home. We love our community. We're passionate about housing. Ellen and I have done lots of work with affordable housing.
Ellen, why the Shore Group?
The Shore Group specializes in so many different kinds of clients. I say that we're a little multi-generational here, being the eldest of the four of us, and I really have found a niche with people transitioning from their lifelong home to possibly a condo, possibly out of state to live with children. I feel very connected to that community because that's my next chapter.
So there you have it. Thanks to the Shore Group. What a great case they've made for working with someone who is an expert and knows their neighborhood. It's really, really important. So thanks for being with us today on Real Talk with Dean Plavis.